They say the brighter the skyline, the deeper the shadows. In Dubai, as 2025 surrendered to 2026 and the Burj Khalifa rained light over the desert night, that paradox felt painfully true. Music thundered, champagne bubbled, the city moved like a living promise of tomorrow. Yet amid the velvet ropes and camera flashes, one figure stood strangely still, as if the ground beneath him had subtly tilted. The man was Barış Baktaş. A face loved on screens, a magnet for attention, a presence that usually bends any room to his rhythm. But as the new year cracked open, that certainty dissolved. No film premiere, no applause, no contract could shield him from what was about to land in his chest like a stone dropped from a great height. Welcome back to Secrets Behind the Stars, where we try to listen for the truth under the noise. Today is not idle gossip. Today is a careful dissection of a feeling that never quite died and the decision that finally buried it. You're here for the story of a hurried flight, a door slammed shut, and a message that snapped a lingering thread. It's a story of Barış's exposed heart and of Yagmur Yüksel's cool, unwavering clarity. Before we step into the scene where everything broke, are you watching from the sidelines, or are you part of our inner circle? If you crave narratives that don't flatten people into headlines, subscribe to Secrets Behind the Stars. And if you believe these stories deserve the craft and care we pour into them, the join button is right there. Your support is what keeps this channel breathing. Now, let's walk to the moment when the illusion finally shattered. The plan for Barış was uncomplicated: greet 2026 with the grand spectacle of Dubai, let the glow and the noise drown out the year behind him. There were invitations to sprawling rooftops, promises of introductions that could shift careers, and enough ambience to smother second thoughts. It should have been a night of shameless brightness. But as midnight erupted, the celebration dimmed for him with the flicker of a screen. The spark that ignited the downturn wasn't in the room at all. It was a photograph posted from far away by the one person who could still tilt his world without trying, Yagmur Yüksel. The image was disarming precisely because it was so simple. Yagmur stood in gentle light, calm in a way the public hadn't seen from her in a long time. The serenity of her expression felt earned, like something she had fought for privately. Beside her, a man, nameless to the crowd, unfamiliar in the strictest sense, yet framed with an unmistakable intimacy. A new rumor was born in seconds. Columns lit up, whispers caught fire, pages refreshed again and again. But for Barış, it wasn't gossip. It was a mirror reflecting how long he'd been standing still. The deliberate cheer of her caption, the way hope gleamed between the lines, hit him with the weight of a memory he had tried to bury beneath success. People near him said the shift was immediate and impossible to miss. Laughter thinned. His posture changed. The gala glow failed to reach his eyes. When the crowd swelled and the beat rose, he slipped into a silence heavy enough to be felt. He could not pretend that sound could drown a truth. Luxury suddenly tasted like paper. The promise of deals and the exchange of favors meant nothing. In a decision that stunned those who had flown out to orbit his star, he cut his trip short. He told his team almost nothing. Booking was urgent, packing was mechanical, and the distance from party to airport felt like a corridor between two lives. It wasn't just jealousy. It was the return of questions he had refused to face, the fear that life had moved on without him, the knowledge that a lingering chapter needed an answer, one he no longer controlled. At Istanbul airport, the scene was a stripped stage. Usually effortless in front of cameras, always ready with a witty pivot, he arrived without his armor. Flashbulbs burst, microphones rose, he didn't play. The sound that came out of him belonged to an older language, pain that doesn't decorate itself. My chest hurts, and my spirit does too, he said, more to the air than to anyone in particular, and it hit like a line from a sad play. He declined everything else. He dodged no rumors, because he offered nothing to cling to. But when someone breathed Yagmur's name into the cold air, those words were all that remained, a confession from a man startled by the full size of his loss. Once the city swallowed him, the stage lights switched off and the real theater moved to a tiny screen. Fueled by a cocktail of regret and adrenaline, guided by the image of Yagmur beside a man he didn't know, Barış did what he had avoided for months. He reached out. He sent a message, direct, without publicists or filters, asking to meet face to face. He wanted to speak not as a celebrity performing courtesy, but as the person who had once shared a language of small rituals with her. He proposed a conversation about the pieces left unspoken, the grievances that had been packed away because there was never a perfect day to unpack them, the mistakes they had named but never resolved. And more than anything, he wanted to measure whether the feeling that had refused to die inside him had also refused to die inside her. He waited. He watched the typing bubble blink and vanish. Minutes became a private kind of hour. In the end, no lifeline arrived, only a ruling. Her reply was composed, deliberate, almost elegant in its finality. The woman who had rehearsed how to protect her peace delivered a decision, not a tease. She told him, with a cool kindness that did not wobble, that the book was finished for her. That what had felt once like destiny had actually been a lesson. That repeating an error doesn't turn it into wisdom, it only makes you smaller. She closed with a declaration about her year, a new beginning, a page already turned. Listen closely to the pulse of those words. The vocabulary was unmistakable, closed, foolish, new life. This wasn't a coy refusal or a test to see if he'd chase. This was a woman who had grieved in private, stitched herself back together, and pivoted forward. With one message, she didn't just decline a meeting, she erased the sequel he'd been quietly casting in his head. The aftershock was total. Without the closure he had hoped for, some balm for the old bruise, Barış folded into himself. The crisp, curated flow of his social media stopped. Collaborators reported a sudden quiet where there is usually a hum. He drifted from even his most trusted circle, stepping into a period of inventory. What had he done? What had he missed? What had he assumed would wait forever? For the first time, say the chatterers who track every step of his career, the golden aura flickered. The sentence that echoed, about mistakes only needing to be made once, shadowed him like a refrain he could not mute. He had not only lost the relationship, he had lost the illusions built around it. Meanwhile, the glow around Yagmur wasn't an act. Friends say her joy on New Year's was the end of a long inner season, not a spontaneous decision made under fireworks. She didn't leap into chaos, she arrived at a place she'd been mapping quietly for months. The identity of the man in her photo remains carefully guarded, not as a stunt but as a boundary. She wants a life that isn't chewed up by the noise, a romance that can learn to breathe away from glass. It's not haste, it's the calm of someone who has done the work and decided the future deserves privacy. And the public? The courts split right down the feed. One side cheered her message as a banner of self-respect. You're not obligated to return to a room that once set itself on fire. They called her clarity a kindness to both of them, a firm step away from a pattern that exhausted them both. The other side, the romantics who never let go of the idea that love survives every storm, begged for mercy. If someone finally speaks from their core, shouldn't that be enough to earn one more conversation? But the words she chose left little room for negotiation. You can't argue with a door that's locked from the inside. Industry voices weigh in with their own angle. What we're seeing, they say, is the dismantling of a public persona that was never meant to carry so much weight. This is the unmasking of the charming certainty, the end of the idea that performance can stand in for apology, or that success rewrites history. Is his silence an intentional pause to face the parts of himself he has avoided, or is it the numbness that follows realizing you're late to your own life? The gossip world holds its breath, rehearsing both endings. The clean break that stays clean, or the twist that time sometimes engineers without asking permission. Back at the start of our story, the fireworks in Dubai burned bright and then dissolved. That's what brilliance does in the sky, it dazzles, then it disappears. On the ground, the afterglow lingers longer. For Yagmur, the horizon looks like peace, like weekends that don't feel staged, like a calendar filled with projects that align with a self she fought to protect. For Barış, the view is behind him, at least for now. He stands in front of a bridge he thought he could rebuild whenever he felt brave enough, only to learn that bridges have maintenance schedules, and this one was left too long without care. There's a temptation, always, to narrate people as heroes and villains. But real lives don't fit that tight. What happened here belongs to both of them. The late message and the timely boundary, the ache and the relief, the courage to ask and the courage to refuse. The hardest part is that both can be true at once. And the truest part is that some endings are not cliffhangers, they're simply endings. We'll keep listening to the hush around Barış and the steady forward motion around Yagmur. Maybe silence is the right teacher for him now. Maybe privacy is the only oxygen she will accept for this chapter. As of this moment, the story they shared together is sealed. It sits on a shelf neither of them needs to touch. Thank you for walking this emotional route with us on Secrets Behind the Stars. If something in this tale found you, if that final message lodged in your chest, leave a like and share your thoughts. Was Yagmur unyielding, or was she protecting the garden she just finished planting? Tell us in the comments. And if you want us to keep crafting these deep dives with the detail and dignity they require, consider tapping join. Your support is the pulse under these stories. Until next time, honor what shaped you, but keep your face turned toward the next morning.